Hey all you Stray fans, it's Stray Double Fox. Hope you guys are doing awesome. First, I'd like to kick off this video by saying thank you for taking the time for those of you who watched my Wu Ruijang guide video. That was my first time doing any sort of guide video, and it got so many views and so much support from you guys. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch that video and for taking the time to watch this video. Again, I'm going to do the best that I can. I'm still new to this. But let's go ahead and jump into learning Darley Dagger, or at least give you guys some tips and some guides to using her. Throughout my experience, what can I expect from Darley Dagger? She is a sort of close to mid-range fighter. She's also a sort of mix-up character and heavy brawler. She's also a grappler. She's got a lot of tools that you can use for mix-ups, and that's what makes her scary. And speaking of scary, that is a crucial part to her gameplay. Because she has grabs, because she has good mix-ups, it makes her super scary, especially if you got your opponent trapped in a corner. The amount of damage you can do and mind play that you can do with some of her attacks is absolutely amazing. So if you're looking to pick up a brawler, sort of mix-up in-your-face sort of character, this is definitely the go-to character. Some of her advantages: she's got really good pokes, really good mix-ups, really good jump-ins, really damaging normal hits, and she's got some attributes to her that I will explain here in a bit. And overall, she's just really fun to play as, if you like a really good brawler. Now, some of her disadvantages: I would say she kind of struggles against sort of long to mid-range characters, quick characters as well. So characters like Yashamaru, Ruijang, and Earthquake, she has a little bit of trouble trying to get into their space, so that way you can set up for your mix-up game. There might be some ways around it. I'll see if I can throw in whatever I can. I'll do the best that I can, but for now, let's go ahead and jump into some of her normal attacks. We have her standing light, crouching light, standing medium, crouching medium, standing heavy, crouching heavy. We have her standing kick, crouching forward kick. We have her jumping light, jumping medium, jumping heavy. Even though I'm jumping straight up, it's still the base, still the same basic concept. It's just that I'm not jumping forward. But anyway, you can notice some of her moves have a lot of swinging arcs. Like the crouching medium. Crouching medium, I would say, is probably really good for jump-ins, or badly spaced jump-ins, and maybe a little bit of pokes here and there. You just gotta use it sparingly. Mediums are really good for pokes, and it has attributes to it. Same thing with her standing heavy. Jump-in mediums are really good as well. As you can see, it does a wide sweeping arc, and it is really good for cross-ups. And then her heavy attack, you kind of have to time. It's a little finicky because of the startup that she has on it. Some of the other things that she's got her forward kick, and this is a really crucial part to her mix-up game, guys, because she's standing, and it makes it look like it's going to be an overhead, but it's actually a low hitting move. So keep that in mind, because that's going to play a really big role. Alright, so we'll look at her dashing kick. So her dashing kick, I'd like to note about that is that her hitbox and her box extend horizontally. It doesn't actually extend below her sword. And that's really good information to know, because say if you're playing against low projectile characters, so say like Tam Tam, where he throws his skulls and everything, he can throw them low and he can throw them high. I've seen, I think he has mid skulls as well. I might have to double check on that in a later video. But anyway, when doing the lunge kick, it will actually whiff under her character when he's throwing out those projectiles, or if somebody is going for a sliding kick, because her sliding kick is a little different. Her dashing kick is a little different. Most other characters so far are just sort of like sliding kicks that hit low. You can use this to kind of maybe get over your opponent, and sometimes they'll actually whiff right under your character, and then from there maybe you can do a sort of surprise mix-up, because you'll be on the opposite side of your opponent. So next we'll go into her dashing light, dashing medium, and dashing heavy. Her dashing light, it stops really suddenly, so you really got to get the timing down if you're planning to do like a surprise light attack. I don't really see myself using it that much, but if you have some utility out of it, be sure to let me know in what way, if you can explain it as best as possible, because I'm still learning, but I'm still willing to give as much information I can, so that way you guys can learn as well. Anyway, we'll go into her dash-in medium. Her dash-in medium is also good for spacing and punishing. Same thing with her standing medium. It's really, really good for punishing, and it has attributes to them, as I've already stated. Heavy. The heavy, you can see, is also a sort of arc hitting motion. Maybe good for jump-ins and badly spaced jump-ins. I wouldn't throw this out too much unless you're going to be planning for a deflect. And sorry if I forgot to mention what her expectations were when using this character. Is you're probably going to be throwing out some deflects, a good amount of deflects here and there when using this character. Probably more often than some other characters. But anyway, moving on. Let's see here. Her jump-in medium, her crouching medium, and her standing medium, if you're up close, it will actually be cancelable into her specials. I haven't had much luck with lights canceling into any of her special moves. Her heavy also cancels into special moves. It can also cancel into just a close standing or a crouching medium. With that being said, let's go ahead and talk about her dash-in heavy. Her dash-in heavy is surprisingly a low-hitting attack, whereas compared to just her dash-in kick, it's more of like a a mid attack. And so I would probably recommend maybe going into like a practice, and kind of memorizing that it's the heavy that hits low and that it's the light that hits mid. With her dash-in heavy, I would probably use this to trip up your opponent. Say like you're constantly pestering your opponent with a lot of mediums, and then that's another thing that I kind of forgot to mention here, is you're going to be pestering your opponent a lot and getting into your opponent's space and their face. Now we'll go into her close standing light, close crouching light, close standing medium, crouching medium, or close crouching medium, close standing heavy, and crouching close heavy. And then, so now I'll go ahead and talk about some of those attributes to her normals that I was talking about. She has these attributes to her weapon, or her normals, where they do multiple hits, just throwing medium or heavy out there. And the thing about them is they do multiple hits for a bit more damage, and on top of that, it's also based upon what distance you are at with your opponent. I've had some people tell me that it's all about mashing when you're going for these attacks. However, that is not the case. Mashing the medium or heavy attack will not get you more hits. I will show that here. So say if like I'm at about a foot away in game from my opponent and I throw out a medium, you can do it. You can see that it does a total amount of 7 hits of damage, and this is really good for conditioning your opponent. And what conditioning is putting your opponent in a sort of mentality or state to make them act a certain way, and from there they become a little more predictable and easier for you to capitalize upon. You kind of have to experiment with some distances. If you're the further away you are from your opponent. Sorry if I couldn't speak here. The further you are away, the less hits it'll start to do. You can see that it now only did 2 hits, so you kind of have to experiment with the distance. I'd say the maximum amount of distance you can be is maybe like 1.5 feet away from your opponent in game when using the medium to get your full amount of hits. Yep. Alright. Now, she has the same attribute with her heavy attack. I still have to experiment with the distance with the heavy attack, but you can see it does a tremendous amount of hits and damage. It does, I want to say, maybe 15%, and that is huge. But as you can see, it has a lot of startup. So I would use this move very sparingly, even if somebody throws out a special. Depending on what character you're facing, they could have really short recovery on their specials, and then you throw one of those out there, they block it, and then they try to poke you out of it, and it kind of gets a little messy from there. But anyway, like I said, probably use your standing heavy attacks very sparingly, even though it does a lot of damage. It's good for kind of psyching out your opponent, so that way you can build more of the conditioning game. Alright, let's see here. The next thing we can jump into, I would say, is her specials. Now, I'll go ahead and put up the input list here for you guys, or the command list. So those are her special moves, and this is for you guys if you want to try to learn some of her inputs, or are just kind of interested in what her inputs are like. If they might be too difficult for you, you don't have to learn them, or if you want to just use them as a point of reference, so that way you can follow along with what I'm talking about, you guys can do that. Feel free to pause the video a bit longer if you need to take a quicker look. But from there, let's go ahead and jump into her her specials. So she has, so her first special is going to be Blade Surf. She kind of uses her blade like a surfboard. You get this cool water effect, and what it does is it goes up at an angle, as you can see. She has 3 variations, the light, medium, and heavy. Each have their own angle, each have their own distance, their own multiple hits, and their own angle, if I hadn't already said before. But anyway, so that was the light. Goes a fairly okay distance, that doing the least amount of hits. The medium version goes at more of a vertical angle, more towards like mid-screen. And then her heavy version goes fairly far. It goes at more of a vertical angle. And if you have rage gauge on, it will do more hits. If you hadn't noticed already, when you have rage gauge on and you're using certain characters, I believe, I'm not sure if it's for all of them, I might have to experiment more with them, but I guess I would be safe to say that most of them add additional hits to their heavy versions of some of their specials. So if I were to do a raw Blade Surf, heavy Blade Surf, you can see that it only does 5 hits of combo damage. But if I were to have the rage gauge fully on, it actually does 8 hits. It does 5 for the first hits. I'll go ahead and show you here. So there's 5 going. Okay, sorry. Oh no, I'm getting these mixed up. Sorry, guys. There we go. See? It does about 8 hits. I guess I was wrong about the hits going up. It looks like it did about 7. But anyway, moving on. Coming back down, it adds that additional hit. More damage for you. And that was her Blade Surf. The best instance I would probably use a Blade Surf is maybe punishing your jump-ins if you anticipated jump-in. Or if you're trying to maybe get some distance from your opponent, because it will actually push past your opponent, like maybe when you're doing a medium or heavy version. I would probably rely more on the medium version. For some reason, I seem to get a little more distance when I'm using the medium version of the attack and it's on block. And you can kind of put yourself at a little bit of a better distance away from your opponent. Don't get me wrong, they can still punish you, but it'll just kind of give you a little more space. Alright, so that was her Blade Surf. We'll go into her Serpentine Breaker. And what her Serpentine Breaker does is it pulls out a big ol' hammer, and it smashes your opponent in the face. Now, the cool thing about the Serpentine Breaker is it has a reflective property. So what that means is it can actually reflect projectiles. I've seen it happen. Have I been able to do it for myself? Maybe my timing is off. I'm not quite sure. But you can go ahead and experiment with it in the practice, or yeah, in the practice section of the game. But anyway, another thing to say about this move is it's chargeable. As you can see here, it did 2 hits this time, and those will actually combo into themselves. just those 2 hits. I haven't really found a really reliable way to be able to do that. It just kind of happens here and there. Maybe you guys can help me out as well, since I'm still trying to learn Darley Dagger as well. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's charging it up only for a shorter amount of time, or for a longer amount of time than just if you were to just throw this move out. But if I were to fully charge it for about 3 seconds, it does a huge overhead crush, and it will actually break your opponent's guard. I'll go ahead and show you an example here. So his guard is on. If I were to hit the opponent, you can see that he's totally blocked. Now if I go for the charge version of the Serpentine Breaker, completely broken through. And then the cool thing about when using the Serpentine Breaker is all 3 versions of the Serpentine Breaker is actually maneuverable. Meaning I can actually walk forward, and I can also cancel it if I dash back. I can't actually walk backwards, but I can dash back if I wanted to cancel it. Say if somebody's trying to jump in and stop me from charging, I can do that. And then once they're trying to get in my space, go for some maybe mediums, maybe some lights to kind of get them to back up a little bit. But anyway, we'll go ahead and jump into her medium and heavy versions of the Serpentine Breaker. Now, this is what kind of helps her combat sort of long-range characters. So if I'm charging this move up and say a Yishamaru, Earthquake, or Wu is playing a really good keep away game, they're trying to back off a little bit, and you want to lay on a little bit more of the pressure, you can throw one of these out, and it does a whole ground pound, creating a shockwave, and it causes your opponent to be knocked down, and then you can set up some stuff from there. Maybe get in some distance with the Blade Surf. I just kind of wanted to throw that out there, but it's probably punishable, so probably not a Blade Surf, but maybe just dash in a little bit, kind of get them psyched out. Anyway, Serpentine Breaker, the heavy version. The heavy version has another attribute on top of doing the ground pound version. Now, if you could notice the opponent was holding his arm and was in a sort of stun state. You can actually combo from that stun state. I know this is kind of going into combos a little early, but I'll just go ahead and show it for the sake of proving that it actually works. So he's stunned. So you could see there that even though I didn't get the crouching medium, doing the jump in medium actually comboed. So there's some combo potential there for you guys. Alright, let's go ahead and move on to her High Tide. Her High Tide is a hit grab, and what a hit grab is it's still somewhat considered a grab, but you have to make sure you get the confirmed hit. I'll show you here. So if I were to do this on block, he's just gonna be able to block right through it. And usually when I grab an opponent, I can break through their guard or through their block. But if I were to do the High Tide, it doesn't really grab them. And also, a thing to note about this is doing it up close, you're not going to get really anything out of this move. It's because the hitbox of the High Tide only extends out to towards like end of her sword or end of her scythe here or whatever she turns it into. So also keep that in mind. And then we'll go into her command grab here, which is her Riptide Pierce. Helps to push your opponent back a little bit. Same thing with her High Tide. It knees the opponent back into the corner so that way you can do some of her mix-ups more towards the corner, because that's where she really shines. Alright, so now we'll go into her final move, or final super. And for this one, you're gonna have to put your weapon down. To put your weapon down, you just hold the down direction and then just press kick, medium slash, and heavy slash. You'll drop your weapon, and then this move is called the point break. Just do a quarter circle forward, light, medium, or heavy. As you can see, my opponent can still block this move, except for the heavy. So that's a really good way to psych out your opponent. Say like you cause a hard knockdown, and a thing that I probably should mention is if she's unarmed, she still has a lot of good combo potential. I can still combo into certain moves if she's unarmed, because she's also meant to be a sort of brawler. But anyway, say if you cause a hard knockdown on your opponent, you're trying to get up and they see that you're trying to go for a punch and they try and block it. Nope, sorry, you're gonna eat all of that damage if you just sit there and try to eat up or soak up that attack. It's not gonna happen, guys. I'm sorry. You can jump over this move, but if I catch you on the way down, it's gonna hurt. But anyway, the best instance I would probably use this move is, like I said, probably a knockdown, or if your opponent is really climbing up because you played a really good mixing game, or a mix-up game. And let's see here. I would also like to note that if you are unarmed and you want to, say, go for your sword, and they're kind of throwing some moves out there, kind of whiffing, kind of getting them to whiff here and there, you can do a dashing attack, and what happens is it'll actually do an uppercut on your opponent and will actually push them back. So I'll go ahead and show you an example here. Alright, so I'll go ahead and put my weapon down. Let's say they disarmed me. I want to go back for my weapon and they're trying to guard it. I go in for a dash-in attack, knocks them down, play a mix-up game, and then I can get back to my sword, which is really nice. Alright, let's see. I believe I mentioned all of her specials, so now I believe we just go right into her combo potentials and mix-up potentials. So, some of her combo potentials, she can combo a jump-in light into a crouching or, I believe, standing light. So I'll go ahead and show that here. Whoops. There you go. And let's see. Whoops. Come on. Probably more of just the crouching light. Yeah, I'd say probably you're more reliable just getting the crouching light. Yep, more reliable getting the crouching light when you're trying to go for that sort of combo, but the only thing with that is that you can't really combo into anything else like the blade surf. So say if I was just going for the jump-in light and then I try to do a blade surf after it, sorry if I can speak, you guys, it will not actually combo. The light version just does 3 hits. If I were to do it just straight raw. And as you can see, the other 2 light hits, jump-in lights, the example that I gave, they didn't combo, sadly. But there are still other potentials here. So you could go in for a jump-in medium and then into a crouching light. If I can time it here. Oops. There we go. She can also do the same thing from her heavy attack. Oh, sorry, wrong one. But there was another combo for you guys. Come on now. Alright, well, you guys are just gonna have to kind of take my word for it. But it does combo. Not that it can't really do any specials after it, but it's just some more information, some other kind of combo hits for you guys if you kind of want to psych them out or something. But anyway, let's now go into her jump-in medium. So to combo from her jump-in medium, what I've been doing is I've been practicing learning the fall distance off of Yishamaru. The best way that I kind of judge where and when to do the her jump-in mediums or jump-in heavies is when I get to about Yoshimaru's shoulder to about elbow length. That's where I find where the sweet spot kind of is. Let's see here. There you go. I comboed into a standing medium. So that's kind of where I judge the jump-in mediums. The jump-in heavies, I would say you're more likely to hit your opponent and be able to combo into other certain things if you were to judge the distance from her knee to about Yoshimaru's head height, or maybe just a little bit above. There we go. So, as you can see there, she was able to combo from her jump-in heavy into a standing medium, or I think it was a crouching medium. Can't remember. I'm brain dead here, guys. But anyway, it actually comboed. Some other things that she can combo into is her high tide, which is also really good if you're looking to pressure your opponent into the corner. So, say if I want to go for a jumping medium, I would go for a jumping medium, standing medium, and then into the high tide, and it'll push your opponent back, and it pushes them a pretty good distance into the corner. And then from there, you're going to be playing some mix-up games here. As I said before, we'll get to that soon enough. I know the anticipation must be killing you guys. But anyway, let's keep jumping into more combos here. She can combo her jump-in medium, I believe, into her blade surf. Oops. Yep. Because if I were to do it just raw, it's just 4 hits. So the jump-in medium will also count. But I'd probably try to throw in something like a close standing medium. So that way you guys can get a little bit more bang for your buck, you know? Go ahead and show that here. Whoops. And then you can do either the standing or crouching version of the medium. Whoops. Come on now. There we go. 6 hits. Not bad. So, what I would like to note is if you're doing those blade serves, be aware that you're more likely to hit or follow through with the combo if you do the light and medium variations of her blade serve. I've tried doing her heavy. Yes, you might be able to combo here and there, but honestly, I think it's just more trouble than it's worth. Even though it gets you some hits, it won't get you all of your hits. So I'll show you an example here. So as you can see, it didn't really consistently hit too well. I'll go ahead and do it again here. That other medium should have comboed here. Oops. Come on now. As you can see, I did the heavy version and it whiffed a good portion of my moves, and I didn't get the max amount of hits and combos and damage that I could be potentially getting if I were to use the light and the heavy or the medium version of the blade serve. So also keep that in mind. Some other things that she can combo into. She can combo from her heavy to a standing to a close standing medium, and then into her high tide. Adds a little more damage, more bang for your buck, so if you want to take the risk to go for that one, you can. Just make sure that if you go in for the heavy, you really have to time that, because once you throw out that heavy, it can be pretty punishing, and that's just with a lot of Samurai Shodown characters. Once you throw out a heavy, you kind of have to be prepared for any punishes that your opponent may decide to do. But anyway, moving on. She can't really grab or combo into any of her command grabs as far as I've seen. So sorry, but it's still going to be a crucial tool when when playing her mix-up game. She can also combo, I believe, her jump-in light into a crouching forward kick. Yep. And then that'll also add to her mix-up game, because then it'll cause a hard knockdown, and then you guys can play it from there. Same thing with her jumping medium. She can also combo into the crouching forward. If I can get it right and I'm not a chump. Okay, sorry guys, I'm a chump. But take my word for it, it works. She can also combo her jump-in medium into a forward kick. That's also really crucial when planning a mix-up game, because as you can see, it just looks like she's walking and then you go for what looks to be like an overhead, but it actually hits low. So I'll go ahead and do that here for you guys. Whoops. Do that again here. There we go. It will actually combo, and then you can go into more mix-up games from there. The heavy version, I believe, only combos into the crouching forward kick. Let's try it here. Yep, so it does go into the crouching forward kick. As for the just the standard forward kick, I don't believe it will actually combo, because that the overhead the low hitting, deceivingly low hitting, high hitting kick will trip up your opponent here. It's too slow for the jump in heavy. And then the jump in heavy also pushes your opponent back a little too far for you to even try it anyway, so I probably wouldn't recommend going for a forward kick. Probably just kind of stick with the crouching forward kick. Alright, so now that we kind of got a look at a little bit of her mix-up game, I will go ahead and transition into her mix-up, some of her mix-up game and strategies. Hopefully this section will help you guys a lot. So, she has really good mix-up strategies because of this deceivingly overhead but low-hitting move, this kick. And why that's such a good mix-up tool is because, say I trip my opponent, and then I trip my opponent. I'm throwing out all these empty lights to kind of get them thinking about what I'm gonna do. They think I'm gonna go for just a standard overhead attack after I've tripped them so much, but then nope, it hits them low once again. From there, since they are probably anticipating that I'm going for another low attack, I could go for a surprise medium, and then it'll get them thinking twice about what move or what mix-up I'm going to be doing next. And then the same thing goes for if they start to turtle up or start blocking a lot. You can go for a command grab that will go right through their defenses, and then it just makes it a really, really hard time to be playing against a Darley Dagger player, and you're trapped in the corner. She can be really scary, guys. I'm trying to emphasize this as much as possible. She can be potentially scary if she gets you into the corner, because of this deceiving kick. And then after that, some other strategies is pestering your opponent with a lot of jump-ins, with a lot of jump-in mediums, and then they start to get used to blocking those jump-ins. And then once they start to get used to blocking those jump-ins, you could go for an empty jump. You can go for an empty jump and then do her command grab, because they think that you're gonna throw out another hit, but you're not. You're gonna be grabbing them. Her mix-up game is virtually endless, guys. It'll also depend on how well your opponent is going to be able to realize your strategy. But this is just kind of a helpful guide for you to kind of get you guys thinking about mix-ups when using this character, because I feel that's some of her strong points. Even though she may be a hard-hitting character, her mix-up game is what's really going to help her out here, and being up close. Some other tips that I can possibly give is, I would say if you're noticing that your opponent is blocking a lot as well, and you're noticing that your attacks are getting blocked, you can see the recoil there. That's where you want to try and figure out a sort of time frame. The best thing I I do is I buffer the input for a deflect, just in case they try to throw out some sort of like poke or attack. And what a buffer is doing an input after executing some sort of animation or attack, and then your inputs that you do right after it, the game will still realize those inputs, and it will actually read those inputs. So here, if I can give an example to give you a better idea of what I'm talking about. So I throw a medium attack, he's going to block it, and then I buffer in the inputs for a deflect, and then I finish the command by pressing the buttons required to do the deflect. So you can see right there, after my weapon got blocked, I was in a recovery animation, and through that recovery animation, that's when I did the buffer and executed the deflect. This is going to be a really good tool when playing as this character, because they know that your character is a sort of brawler, almost a slow-hitting sort of character, especially with her heavy attack. If I throw out her heavy attack, look how much recovery animation she goes through. It's absolutely crazy. So there's got to be some way to compensate for it, right? Or there's got to be some way to kind of defend yourself if you think your opponent is going to do some sort of poke, right? Well, that's where the deflect comes in. They block, they block it, and then I do a deflect. And the cool thing about when buffering these moves and the recovery animation is you can actually judge when exactly you want to do those deflects. So I'm in the recovery animation. At the end of the recovery animation, that's when I decided to throw it out. I could do it even sooner. You can see how fast it comes out. So as you see, it came out super fast, but I decided to delay my deflect, so that way if they decide to try and, if my opponent decides to try and see what I might do after it, and he decides to throw out a sort of poke or a heavy attack because he thinks that I'm not going to really be doing anything, nope, he's going to be eating a deflect, which will leave them wide open to a huge array of attacks. So there's some tips for you. I haven't showed her weapon flipping technique, so I'll go ahead and show you guys. So with her weapon flipping technique, it's an uppercut. I believe it has 1 hit of armor. Oh, and if I hadn't mentioned before, I'm sorry guys, her breakpoint also has a hit of armor. So say if I'm trying to go in and maybe finish a fight or something like that, and I'm feeling a little confident, as soon as my opponent's waking up or something like that, I can throw out that hit and I'll still be safe. I don't know if it does any sort of potential damage or just takes a little chip of your health away. I still have to experiment a little more with Darley Dagger. But anyway, that's there for you guys. So I would say, for the most part, is just focus a lot on her mix-up game. Definitely go into practice mode. Think about what your next mix-up is going to be. This hits, so it's like, okay, I'm going to go for a low, I'm going to go for another low, then I'm going to go for a surprise overhead, because they might think I'm going to be going for a third low. Or you can, or once you start to do that, you can go for another sweep, and then another sweep, because they think you're going to go for that overhead. Like I said, her mix-up game is virtually endless, guys. Like I said, it's all going to depend on how well your opponent is going to be able to read and capitalize on the movements you make here. And that's what Samsho is, just capitalizing on other people's movement. I think that's probably just any fighting game. But anyway, be aware of her walk speed. It seems like she walks kind of slow. I think she's just a little bit faster than Wu. Darley is meant to be sort of a confident brawler, so that's kind of why she has her strut going on there. But overall, just kind of be aware of her forward and walk speed, as they are both somewhat slow. Another tip that I would say, so for her weapon flipping technique, since it's an uppercut, I would definitely use this move more towards, like, say if my opponent was to do a jump in, or if they were to do a sort of poke. I believe it has invincibility frames. If not, then I think it has at least 1 hit of armor as well. So you can throw that out there to disarm your opponent, and then once you've disarmed your opponent, it'll make it a ton easier for you to play a good spacing game, get in your opponent's face a little more. Definitely watch out for sweeping attacks once your opponent is disarmed, because they might try and put you in a knockdown state so that way they can go for their weapon. And then we have her ultimate. It is a really slow move, guys. So again, the best thing that I could probably recommend is if you were to do her ultimate, is maybe if you notice that a certain character has really long recovery after doing a special move. Even then, I would still be kind of careful just because of how long this animation goes through. Another thing is deflex. If you happen to get a deflect off your opponent, then I would also try to go for the ultimate. That's only the really big situations that I could see in you being able to utilize her ultimate. I believe it could still be poked out of your ultimate as well, so be aware of that. All in all, I would say she's really fun to play as if you're looking to get in the face of your character and then keep them guessing with all these weird and crazy mix-ups. And definitely use the heavy attack sparingly unless you're planning for a deflect. Be aware and be ready to be doing a lot of deflects and anticipation if you're throwing out a lot of mediums. You're also going to be doing a lot of mediums, like I said, pestering your opponent. But all in all, she's a really fun character. Keep them guessing, keep them in a conditioned state if you can, and just play off of their moves. Drop your character, kind of get in there, but at the same time, every now and then take a step back to kind of see what your opponent does, so that way they don't try to they don't catch you off guard. All right, with that being said, I hoped I covered as much as I possibly could with Darley Dagger. If I missed anything, I'm sorry, guys. I'm still kind of new to this, but in any sense, thank you for joining me today. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if this video has helped you out at all. And I will do the best I can in the next video, and I will catch you guys later. Stray Devil Fox is out. See you guys.